Hello Britain, this is Mr. Mahmoud. I hope all of you are fine. Today's video is about section 2 in chapter 5. We have already finished section 1, and just to remind you, section 1 was about the first people who lived in Greece, about the Greeks' religious institutions and system, and also about the myth in Greece. And we're gonna start now about rule and order in Greek city-states. How was the rules and how was the order in Greece or ancient Greece? By 750 BC, the city-state or polis. So polis, its Greek word means the city. It was fundamental political unit in ancient Greece, and polis made up a city and some villages around it. And the territory about the polis was 50 or 500 square miles of territory. They were often home to fewer than 10,000 residents. At the agora or marketplace or fortified hilltop called Acropolis, as we see here, this is a Greek's Acropolis. Citizens gather to discuss city government. Greek political structures. Greek city-states had many different forms of government, and we're gonna look for or see the chart here that we have. In some single person called king, and the king ruled the government, and the government that the king is ruling called monarchy. Monarchy means kingdom. Other adopted and an aristocracy, a government ruled by a small group of noble land-owning families. These very rich families often gained political power after serving in king's military cavalry. Later, as trade expanded, a new class of wealthy merchants and artisans emerged in some cities. When these groups became dissatisfied with aristocrats' rule, they sometimes took power or shared it with the nobility. They formed an oligarchy or a government ruled by a few people. Let's see the form of government we have. Monarchy. It is a state ruled by the king. Rule is hereditary. Hereditary means the son of the king will rule after him. Some rulers claim divine right, means they are like gods. Practice in Mycenae by 2000 BC. Aristocracy, a state ruled by nobility. Rule is hereditary and based on family ties, social rank, and wealthy. Social status and wealthy support rulers' authority, practiced in Athens period. Oligarchy, a state ruled by a small group of citizens. Rule is based on wealth or ability. Ruling group controls military. Practice in Sparta by 5000 BC. Direct democracy, a state ruled by its citizens, and that's the newest one. Rule is based on citizenship. Majority rule, decide, vote. Practice in Athens by about 5000 BC. So that is the form of government. Tyrants seize power. In many city-states, repeated clashes occurred between rulers and the common people. Powerful individuals, usually nobles or other wealthy citizens, sometimes seize control of the government by appealing to the common people for support. These rulers were called tyrants. Unlike today, tyrants generally weren't considered harsh and cruel. So we know that this word tyrant, it means this unfair, cruel ruler, but it didn't mean that time the same meaning. It means the one who rules and controls. They were looked upon as leaders who would work for the interest of the ordinary people. Once in power, for example, tyrants often set up building program to provide jobs and housing for their supporters. So we know that the tyrant is the normal ruler, and actually he is good one if we're gonna compare this meaning to today's meaning, because he is supporting and working for the normal ordinary people. Athens builds a limited democracy. The first step toward democracy came when a nobleman named Draco took power in 621 BC. This Draco developed a legal code based on the idea that all Athenians, rich and poor, were equal under law. So that was the first aspect of democracy by Draco. Draco's code dealt very harshly with criminals, making death the punishment for practically every crime. It also upheld such practices as debt slavery, in which debtors worked as slaves to repay their debts. So if you are a debtor at that time, you're gonna be a slave according to Draco's code. More far-reaching democratic reforms were introduced by Solon. And Solon came to power in 594 BC, stating that no citizen should own another citizen. Solon outlawed debt slavery. He organized all Athenian citizens into 4 social classes according to wealth. Only members of the top 3 classes could hold political office. However, all citizens, regardless of class, could participate in Athenian assembly. Solon also introduced the legal concept that any citizen could bring charges against wrongdoers. Around 5000 BC, Athenian leader, another one called Cleisthenes, introduced further reforms. So we have two major characters who started the real organizing way of political system in ancient Greece. They are Solon, that is Solon, and Cleisthenes. So this man broke up the power of nobility by organizing citizens into groups based on where they lived rather than on their wealth. He also increased the power of the assembly by allowing all citizens to submit laws for debate and passages. Cleisthenes then created the Council of 500. This body proposed laws and consulted the assembly. Council members were chosen by lot at the random. The reforms of Cleisthenes allowed Athenians citizens to participate in a limited democracy. However, citizenship was restricted to a relatively small number of Athenians. Only free adult male property owners born in Athens were considered citizen. Women, slave, and foreign were evolved from citizenship and had few rights. Athenian education. For the most part, only the sons of wealthy families received formal education. Schooling began around the age of 7 and largely prepared boys to be good citizens. They studied reading, grammar, poetry, history, mathematics, and music because citizens were expected to debate issues in the assembly. Boys also received training in logic and public speaking, and since the Greeks believed that it was important to train and develop the body. So that's enough for today, guys, and thank you very much for your listening. Please wait me for the next video.